Well, it is time now for our international press review, and I'm joined here in the studio by our very own Elena Cassis. Good morning to you, Elena.
Morning again.
And we are going to be talking this morning, I gather, about this ongoing saga, this ongoing scandal that's hit the news of the world and the Murdoch media empire.
Yep, it's all over the British and American front pages today. What they're really interested in this morning is that file of emails that News International passed to the British police yesterday, which supposedly reveals that their top executives, at least some of them, knew about the phone hacking as early as 2007, at the time when you might remember 2 reporters were jailed in the UK for it, and the newspaper famously said they were rogue reporters, they were the only people involved.
Exactly, an isolated case, which is clearly proving out to not be the case.
Yep, so that's what was on today's front pages. The Independent have got News International knew hacking was widespread in 2007 as a headline. The Daily Telegraph on the same lines, hacking the smoking gun emails. And the Guardian headline today, Murdoch's top aide faces questions on hacking scandal.
Right, so this is going right up to the top levels then.
They're talking about Les Hinton, who at the time of this was News International's chief executive in Britain. He's now in charge of Rupert Murdoch's American newspapers. Now, they say those emails prove, the Guardian says, those emails prove he knew at the time that there were more people involved than those 2 supposedly rogue reporters, and also that he knew that illegal payments had been made to police officers for information. So the police investigation in Britain could now be targeting Les Hinton, the Guardian says. They also talk about possible criminal charges being made against Rebekah Brooks, who is due to be questioned by police this week, possibly under caution, the Guardian says, to find out what exactly she knew at the time. And indeed against James Murdoch, possibly, the Guardian also says, because he's admitted he deliberately misled Parliament. On Friday, he admitted that he had told a Parliament Select Committee things which he knew not to be true about phone hacking.
He claims he wasn't informed, but there is an argument that says that if you're the top brass at one of these organisations, it's your duty to be informed. So,
well, exactly. The Guardian say that at the very least he misled Parliament, so they could all be facing possible criminal charges.
Really reaching the high levels there in News Corp. Fascinating stuff. Now, there are also reports coming out that the Murdoch empire could be set for fresh trouble, but in the United States this time. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, this is in the Telegraph. Now, News Corp, of course, is an American company. Its shares are traded in New York, which means it's new American business legislation applies to it. And there's an American law which says if American companies have been paying foreign officials, which could include, of course, include the Metropolitan Police, any bribes, then that means they could face really severe penalties. The Telegraph says that could add up to $100 million in fines.
And that would start to hit in the pocket, really, wouldn't it? Like
that really would.
I mean, even News Corp.
Even for News Corp, that's serious money, isn't it? And it also means a Department of Justice investigation into that could go on for 2 to 4 years, which means it could really hang over News Corp for a long, long time.
Yeah, OK. Well, let's have a look at what some media analysts are saying now, made of that final issue of News of the World yesterday, of course. It's Sunday newspaper, and it was its last ever edition. What have media observers, analysts been saying about that?
Let's look at what Charlie Brooker had to say about it in The Guardian.
Charlie Brooker, a really humorous columnist.
He's very funny. Now, he says that yesterday's issue was downright odd, saying the sentimental tone of that valedictory issue kind of clashed a bit with how upset the journalists must have been to lose their jobs. But he does notice some notes of rebellion creeping in there, especially into the crossword, where the clues included woman stares wildly at calamity, stink and criminal enterprise. And the answers included deplore, stench, disaster, racket and tart.
And you've got to ask yourself if there is a little message
Charlie Brooker thinks somebody might be trying to tell someone something with those clues there.
Well, apparently News of the World editors had been briefed that they, this is what's being reported, that they had to not get any of these kind of sarcastic comments in there at all. But it looks like perhaps the canny old crossword writers did manage to have a say.
Yeah, they got something past the censor's careful eye, didn't they?
Now, Eleanor, this investigative culture represents that perhaps the better investigative journalism is perhaps the better side of the British tabloids, isn't it? The New York Times is worried that that might be in danger.
Yeah, they point out that through perhaps underhand methods, News International and News of the World has got some quite serious, juicy, important scoops over time, and they're worried that this might give the British government an excuse to clamp down on the regulation of the press and therefore stop this kind of investigative journalism coming out into the public. Of course, lots of governments would probably love an excuse to clamp down on the tabloid press, and this might just be it, but it says it could affect what makes British journalism special, which is that papers in Britain are normally keener to get their hands a bit dirty and do digging on politicians than they are in other countries.
Dig out the dirt. Well, we'll have to see if that tradition continues. But for now, thank you very much, Elena Cassis, there with that International Press Review.